John Whitney.
Karen Sullivan.
Andrew Holt.
Steve Fortenbach.
Do we need to seat alternates?
Yes.
All right.
I move we seat Karen Sullivan as a regular member.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Is there anything to change?
Nothing to change.
All right. May I have approval for the
Motion
of the
to
agenda?
approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Development compliance report.
Good evening. We have a couple of items to update you on. First one is 16 Horse Run Hill. It is a violation of the Cromwell wetlands regulations from the standpoint that there was work conducted within a regulated area within a stream. Said work consisted of cutting dead trees, not stumping, and piling with a machine the dead trees up gradient out of a regulated area and away from the wetland. The individual was contacted by me when I became aware of it on Friday, March 14th, just prior to my 2-week departure from work, and immediately complied and stopped with everything that he was doing out there, cooperated and continues to cooperate. I came back to work on Monday. I've been out there, I believe, every day this week and spoken with the property owners present here this evening to address the commission and to answer any questions that you may have. So again, it's a large piece of property, and I have a map that I can pass around that's attached with the order that I sent, and you could just take a look at it. The property is located on the cul-de-sac of Horse Run Hill, which is, if you remember, is off of Shunpike, and Horse Run Hill, the properties kind of back up to the cul-de-sac of Sovereign Ridge. And this particular property, subject property, is located as a rear lot off of the cul-de-sac and is visible from Route 9. More visible because it's a rear lot compared to the frontage lots on Horse Run Hill. The individual has a stream that runs through the property from top grade down to the lower grade, and the stream then exits his property onto state property with a head wall that goes under Route 9. In fact, it's clearly visible from his property where the stream disappears under Route 9. He did not disturb that portion of the stream. However, it appears from looking at aerial photographs of previous years that the stream was a fairly straight line, and now appears to be that same configuration with a little bit of what I would describe a 20-foot diameter, 24-foot diameter cove or a pond off of it. So the stream continues to flow, but this additional area, which now appears, that wasn't there last year's aerial photography or previous years, also receives water. The individual at the time, before I became aware, before March 14th, the individual had a wood chipper that was being towed by a bobcat to chop up the dead wood and to spread it on the disturbed earth in a form of stabilization as recommended, as a best management practice. And to be able to cross the stream with the machinery, he laid down 4 large logs and plywood over that so he could cross it, just to be able to get over there in wood chip. When I issued the stop work and cease and desist, that meant there was no machinery to be used, so he had to remove everything from there. I instructed him to leave the bridge intact at the moment, because it wasn't going to impede the flow of the stream at all. Told him that, I asked him if he could please show up tonight for this meeting to address the commission and to find out what the commission's pleasure was on this. What we have remaining now is healthier trees, for the most part. A couple that are leaning over the driveway that probably want to get cut because a nice storm is going to take those down. But I issued the stop work, so he stopped cutting those. those would be included in possible approval to allow him to cut those trees that are leaning over the driveway, so storms don't cut him off from the rest of the roadway. Also, the huge pile, which is probably about 50 feet long, maybe 20 feet high, of piled logs that he was in the process of wood chipping. He still needs to get rid of those, and we still need to stabilize the unvegetated surface, which is sloped towards the stream. So what the property owner did do was, by hand, with whatever wood chips he had already had amassed, by hand, he had spread and depleted that pile of wood chips, starting to try to cover as close to the brook as possible to protect it. Again, following my suggestions and directions and being cooperative. But there remains that large pile of timber which needs to be removed. Not only does it need, he wants it removed, but it's unsightly from the standpoint of the neighbors on Sovereign Ridge when they're looking down at it from their backyards. It's all on his property, so.
Is that across the stream?
It is, yeah, so if his house is here, it goes down a little bit to the stream and then it grows up gradient, so this is all piled up there behind Sovereign Ridge. So he has to cross the stream and get up there, if you grant him that approval, with a bobcat towing the wood chipper and a mini excavator to feed the wood chipper. That would be my suggestion, and also to allow him to cut the trees that are right alongside his driveway that are leaning, which is part of his plan. And also along his driveway to get down, he wants to put stone steps, because it's a fairly steep grade. He wants to put stone steps in that area so he can get down to that area going towards the brook, which I don't have an issue with. So basically on the table, what we have left besides the violation, we have the wood pile, which has to somehow get removed. We have earth that needs to be stabilized further than what it already is because he ran out of wood chips. We have this reconfigured area off the stream, which looks like a small cove, which wasn't there. We have the steps that he wants to put down right alongside the driveway, which I don't have an issue with that as well. Additionally, he has on the property 3-foot high arborvitae, the deer-resistant strain arborvitae, that he wants to continue planting by hand with a shovel on his property that faces Route 9 to create a little bit of a screen and a buffer, and I don't have an issue with that as well. So before I ask the individual to come up and answer any questions or address you, my recommendation would be that you allow him to continue to wood chip under staff supervision and to stabilize that area, and to, in the future, put those stone steps when he gets around to doing that, and to probably immediately, while he's got the wood chipper there, cut those remaining half a dozen or 10 trees, whatever, that are definitely leaning like this towards the driveway. That probably a caliper like this that would cause some damage if they fell. And probably at the most inopportune time during an ice or snowstorm, they're going to fall. And that would be it. So at this point, I would ask the property owner, Mr. Lazaro, to come up to the microphone. And
I have a question, maybe he'll answer it. So you're saying that there's this big wood pile, they are logs ready to be chipped. Is that sufficient material to stabilize the area, or does he have to bring in other material?
no, that would be sufficient.
And the steps you say that those are in the area that,
Right alongside his driveway, not in the wetlands, not in the brook, but technically within 100 feet of the water course. So that would, if you're going to issue a permit, might as well include that activity as well,
Yep.
because it is activity as defined by our regulation. Yeah. Any other questions before Mr. Lazaro addresses you?
Yeah, Bruce, any knowledge on how we got the pond there? Maybe the applicant will tell us, but also, did you suggest to him that he proceed with an application for work within the wetland to bring before us? I think that would be appropriate, whether we approve it or not. I think that your your recommendations are sound and valid, and I have no problem with them, but I think we should still have, for the paperwork, to have an application as to what he's going to do that would cover that.
I agree with you, you're absolutely correct, and I forgot, that's on my list of items that I forgot to mention to you when I was just discussing that. But yes,
Okay.
an application is required for all such projects
Sure.
before a permit could be considered.
Okay.
How you doing, Council?
Howdy, state your name and address for the record, please.
Tony Lazaro, 16 Horse Run Hill.
You can pick that up or bend that up or make it easier.
Thank you. Appreciate it, thanks.
All right, well, tell us what happened and what you did and where you wanna go from here.
Yeah, so initially I got approval from the town just to plant the arborvitaes, like Bruce was saying, along that side of the property that runs along Route 9. In the process of doing that, to safely kind of traverse the property and install the tree line, I brought the machines in, not knowing, obviously, I couldn't be within a certain proximity of the stream. Chipped and stacked, you know, what we could in a day that I had the chipper, stacked the rest with future plans to chip it. As soon as Bruce showed up, like I said, we kind of halted everything, took the machines off the property, and I've been proceeding by hand and just at the kind of guidance of him over the last couple weeks. So, I mean, he broke it down pretty good. The goal would be to obviously chip that large wood pile, because it's pretty unsightly at the back of the property there. I understand, obviously Sovereign Ridge can see that too, so that would be the goal, to chip that. But in order to do that, we have to traverse that stream again too, so we have that bridge in place, like Bruce said, the temporary bridge right now, and looking to chip that and kind of get rid of it and spread it out throughout that area.
Do you know what killed all your trees?
I mean, I don't know if they're killed or just falling over. I mean, there's, like when I say probably 15 to 20, 60 to 80 foot large trees falling across the property in that area alone. Not to mention probably in the same amount in my backyard too.
Oh, so they were leaning over and
Oh
falling.
yeah, I had two fall across the driveway like Bruce said last year. Stopped me a couple times after dinner getting home late at night, you know, so I had one miss the house by 6 inches on the other side of the property too last year that I had to get cut up and ruined by a company, so it's a hazard. I mean, as a property owner for my kids, for my dogs, it's a little bit of a liability, so I was more or less trying to plant that tree line to cover highway noise and visibility of the highway, but then obviously make it safer on that side of the property as well.
No, I just didn't know if you had like a disease that was killing trees or whatever have you.
No, I mean, I'd say it's more just, instability in terms of them falling over.
No, that happens too. What about the pond?
So that was the water feature. I mean, it's a pond right now, I guess, because the rain that we've had in the last couple weeks. But I mean, I told Bruce, I mean, that was covered by 2 large trees that were kind of X'd like that over the top of it. And once we removed those trees, it kind of unveiled a water feature that last year when I was looking through there looked more like a marsh swamp with kind of seasonal vegetation grown in there with cabbages and grasses and stuff, and kind of dries up in the summertime and turns more like mucky, muddy, swampy. I think just the removal of the trees honestly kind of unveiled the pond, I guess, that it is now, but it's not, we weren't like digging around in there or anything like that. It's just when we removed those trees, obviously they were driving in that area too, not knowing that I couldn't be in that proximity of the stream, but I think it was more just the removal of the vegetation that kind of exposed it.
Is it that shallow?
I would say it's at least 2 feet grade differential, 1.5 feet, 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I told Bruce too, I mean, that was the part of the property where I had amassed a couple dirt piles from the side of the driveway, cleaning probably 150, 200 feet along the side of my driveway there. And then there were some dirt piles there from like root balls that had fallen over that I told him just kind of grade out into the land, into the woods back there. So there was there's probably, like you said, probably a foot or two of dirt that was spread back there. But again, I think it was more from the unveiling of the vegetation and the sticks and the debris that were all on top of there now that shows it more.
All right, without seeing it or seeing in aerials of it, I wouldn't know, but,
I mean, I think it just more stands out now too because the dirt was worked, and like I was telling Bruce, I mean, once that kind of seasonal vegetation all grows in again, the cabbages and those grasses and stuff, I mean, it's gonna turn into a mud pit within 2 months, so I mean, it's the same thing that was there last year. It was just not covered by anything now, so.
I can comment on this, it doesn't appear that it's a vernal pool.
That's what I was just gonna say, so,
No, it doesn't give that impression at all.
Okay, good.
all right.
Are you running the equipment through like this area, or are you kinda going around it?
I mean, we're trying to not go through it, that's what the bridge was for, I mean, we're working alongside of it, you
Kind
know?
of extended the bridge over the stream and also.
Yeah, correct, we have 4 large logs, like, yeah, we have 4 large logs laid across right now that we had put plywood across and had the machines kinda going back and forth over that.
And the remaining logs are all gonna go through the chipper?
Yeah, that was the goal. And I mean, I get it, like I said, I know it probably, it came from that Sovereign Ridge, I wouldn't want a 50-foot wood stack in the back of my property, it's on my property, but like, I wouldn't want it behind my in-ground pool or anything either, and that wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
The plan was to clean that whole area up and chip everything and spread it all out, but obviously, like, once I got the cease order, everything kinda got put on hold.
How many acres is your property?
I think it's just over 3.1,
Give me
I believe it
back
is.
there. Oh, no, this is what I thought I was
And
gonna
this
do.
is all your property, right? It's not, both sides of the stream you own?
Correct, yep. That's the tough part too, just to get to that side of the property, like I have to, you have to traverse the stream,
Yeah, it
so
doesn't
that's
look like it's that easy to do.
yeah.
And at this time, that would be it for other than those trees hanging over?
Yeah, correct. I mean, the main goal of the whole project was just to be able to safely install that tree line. In order to even get to that state fence and over there, I mean, like I said, there's probably 15 or 20 significant trees that had kind of fallen in that area.
So it's all just tree work and not really not really excavating work or anything like that? You're not looking at-
We were chipping and stacking for 2 days, that's what it was, so I mean, like I said, it's an unsightly pile, I get it, there's a big 50-foot pile in the back of the property now, but the goal obviously was to kind of clean all of it up.
Do we make a motion to approve Bruce's plan, or do we make a?
I'll make a motion that we approve this, subject to a application being filed for doing the work and authorizing Bruce to approve that application, go along with the development of the application to conform with what we've been told here tonight. And based upon that, I would go ahead and approve this application that we drawn up in the near future, so that we won't have to delay another month before starting that, if that's agreeable to people.
I'll second that.
We should also add that when he's done, he removes the bridge.
Good point, good
I was
point.
gonna do notes if wind covered it all, but yes, we need to remove the bridge upon completion of all the work.
Yeah.
Do we have a time frame in when the work should be completed, or just see what happens?
Tony, any idea when you'd be able to get started on that?
I reached out to the gentleman who helped kind of stack everything. I mean, I can get him out there soon. I mean, I just gotta check funds, obviously, and stuff like that, but I mean, I wouldn't, in the next maybe month or so, 2 to 4 weeks, I'd say.
So everything except, let's say, maybe the stairs, which you're.
Yeah, the
maybe
stairs, I
that'll
mean,
be a
that's, the landscaping and the stone on the side of the driveway and stuff like that, that'll obviously come later.
Yeah, but the tree cutting and the wood chipping and the removal of the bridge would be done within a month.
Correct, yeah.
But that should be on the application.
Yeah,
still,
maybe
so
as a-
you don't have to come back again for.
As a condition to that motion, we should have that Bruce would give us a report at our next regular meeting on the status of this activity. It may not be completed by that time, but at least it should be started, and we should be able to know what's going on.
Bruce, you said it's under supervision, is that under yours? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you vote on that seconded motion?
No, not yet, we were finishing the,
All right, if are you in discussion mode?
yes.
Yes.
So, somebody had asked me, and I had passed out the copies of the ordinance about citation fines for wetlands violations, and somebody had asked about that, so if you look at the first page, the nature of the violation, out of all the violations in there, clear cutting is 500, he did not do clear cutting. Placement of material in a regulated area, he did not do that, that's another $500 fine. Violation of plans, conditions, or other elements of an approved inland wetlands and watercourse permit for $500, he did not do that. Violation of any element of an approved erosion and sedimentation control plan, did not do that, for $150. The last one, I think, would fit this activity. Conduct without the issuance of an inland wetlands and watercourse permit of any other regulated activity in a regulated area not listed above for $150. So to answer the question that was posed to me, what would be the applicable fines it would only be one fine, and according to our ordinance, and that would be for $150.
I'll agree with that. Does anybody else have any comments?
I don't know, I mean, if he's working in compliance and he's working with Bruce, do we really need to fine him?
I would agree,
Yeah,
he's
I don't-
working.
Yeah, I think he's working with Bruce, I think we have a plan, I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think a fine is necessary.
I don't think the fine is necessary at all.
And there's no real intent to do that.
Right, he's not, it's not egregious and he's working with Bruce, I don't see it necessary to fine anybody anything.
Does everybody agree with that?
I agree.
All right. Now back to your motion, or is there any more discussion?
No, I'm good.
Are you good with everything? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set.
Tomorrow I'll swing by and I'll drop off the application for you and work with you in filling that out and
Perfect.
completing that.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
The next item I have for you is a violation that just discovered on Monday at 9 Winchester Way. Winchester Way is part of a subdivision that was built, I believe, in the 90s, early 2000s. Right off of Coles Road, Winchester Way is a U-shape, and then you have Summer Wind, which goes up. At 9 Winchester Way, the property owner has filled, this is a zoning violation as well, has filled in excess of 100 yards, and claims that it's 350 yards. And in so doing, has filled within 100 feet of a regulated area, which is off of his rear prop line, Town of Cromwell Conservation Easement, and it's owned by the Town of Cromwell. So,
Well, wait a minute, let's back up. He filled Town of Cromwell's land?
from his, he extended, what appears to have done is extended beyond his property line onto the Town of Cromwell's conservation easement. By how much, I don't know. I'm not talking about 30 or 40 feet, I'm talking about maybe 5 or 10,
Oh, okay,
or maybe a little less than 10.
okay.
I went out with the assistance of a staff member who happens to be a licensed surveyor and also works for the town. And through looking at the subdivision maps and recently placed surveyor stakes by the subject property owner's surveyor for the purpose of defining where a fence would go,
Oh,
determined that he did in fact cross over his rear prop line and onto our conservation easement within, which is not your concern, but within 100 feet of the regulated area. So, we have, that, again, the individual was contacted, and that individual was cooperating and was directed to cease all activity immediately, except to stabilize the exposed earth. And he has some steep grades because he's filled, in one point on his neighbor's property to the north at number 11, he has about a 6 foot, or 6.5 foot grade differential that just goes like this. So that's gonna either have to be, when it goes to planning and zoning, for the amount of fill, that's gonna either have to be brought back and taper graded or retaining wall, whatever his engineer and our engineer agree on.
oh, he did that himself?
Yes, brought in the fill.
That's part of the fill that he brought in.
Okay,
Is that part of the 100 feet of the wetland?
Not on that side yard so much,
Okay.
but the back, his, excuse me, his rear yard, which faces west, which faces Coles Road. So I should say, behind those properties, there is a conservation easement and also a stormwater structure for the subdivision. So it was designed to contain all the catch basin runoff and hold it as a detention area.
Right, is that in the wetland there behind, along Coles Road, that, yeah?
Yes,
So his property is part of the regulated area,
the rear of his property.
the rear of his property
Yep.
is, okay.
The individual, like I said, has been cooperative. I've spoken with both owners of 9 Winchester Way, and they're cooperating with staff. They indicated that it was their intent to try to level the yard to make it more usable from the steep grade that they had there. They claim they did not know that they needed a permit for the activity, and that they will apply for a permit and do whatever has to be done. First step is gonna be, I told them, is getting an engineer drawing of what work has been done, and to determine how much they fill to, if in fact it is 350 or greater, and how to mitigate the grades and to transition them to a safe grade, like a 3-to-1 or less, and immediately to stabilize the area.
And what's he stabilizing it with?
Well, as of today, nothing was done. I told him to contact an engineer to find out, and I said to Google it and to look at the state DEEP's website on erosion and sedimentation control, best management practices. It'll give us some ideas of what to use, such as the reinforced straw matting, which you need on steep grades. I told him not to bother with spreading straw or hay, because it's just gonna wash away on those grades. It's not
Right.
flat, it's not flat ground.
So you're talking the hay that's woven into the nylon?
Or whatever else someone's gonna recommend, but yeah, it's got
Yeah, that erosion control mat
blanket
stuff, yeah.
blankets.
Yeah.
Were they working with anybody, or were they kinda just doing it on their own? Yeah,
I think, from what I understand, they freelanced it with a Bobcat.
okay.
Yeah, that area is, I know those houses, the back is just.
Dropped right
Yeah,
off.
it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
It is.
I think what would help me, obviously we can do a visit, but maybe some photos to show that, like where they've been, putting that fill
Yep.
would be helpful when they come in with the application.
Any questions on 9 Winchester Way?
I would like to see an application on that as well, and perhaps the engineering study that you mentioned would be attached with that application, so that we'd have an idea of where there obviously would be drawings and maybe photographs along with the application. Doesn't sound like we're as far along as the previous person was, so maybe we can go ahead with the normal procedure of getting an application for our next meeting and taking a look at reviewing that application at that point.
And I did inform them that the stages were gonna be, once they get their engineered maps, site plan, that they come in with an application first to this commission, and then to planning and zoning for the amount of fill.
Okay.
Well, and then they need to remove the fill from Cromwell's land.
That's gonna be one of the conditions that the staff pursues, that not only do they remove it, but that they repin. The iron pins are not found now, so they repin the because that's our property, the town property.
Right.
So we have to protect the town's interests.
Yeah.
And it should not be on the town's dime, so to speak.
Yeah.
The town did not do that.
Were the pins there and they just buried them, or are they just not there?
The property owner said the pins were not there, but the maps that we have show that there are iron pins there.
Yeah.
In fact, one of them shows a monument.
Oh,
I was gonna say, there should be some sort of monuments there.
Right.
Concrete monument.
It's
So
not,
If
it
in
wasn't
fact
built
there was
that
a
long
monument,
ago.
somebody prior to this owner's only been there for less than 2 years. So perhaps somebody before them removed the pins or buried the monument. We also have trees that were cut and knocked down and just sort of dropped over the steep embankment that they caused by the fill, and are now into the town's property, conservation easement as well. So they realize that all has to get cleaned up. Some of it, very, very few of it was as a result of this recent clearing, according to the property owner. They said that was there from the previous owner. I informed them, unfortunately, it's like a lot of things, when you purchase a property, if there's a violation, you're inheriting what you purchased, so.
Yeah.
So I'll keep you updated going forward after we receive an application, and as suggested by Wynn, give you photos and narrative of what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, who would have put those monuments there?
The developer at the time of building, before it got final CO.
Right, so they wouldn't have had to been pinned monuments. They could have just been a cement.
Or they could just be pins there and no monument.
Well, there was at least one monument that
That's
showed
what I
up.
was getting at, so.
So the
like,
two back corners were not two monuments. One was an iron pin, and I believe our surveyor said the other one showed a monument.
Yeah, yeah, my brother-in-law, when he had the property property surveyed, he got monuments, but without pins in them, so they're, you know, impossible to find unless you have a surveyor. So that's why I was asking, because, you know, the town should use monuments with pins in them so they can.
Our
be
surveyor
found.
did find with the metal detector, the 2 pins in the front yard, but, the ones in the back were not visible at all.
All right, thank you.
And his surveyor, the property owner's surveyor, for the purpose of finding the
Fence lines?
the fence line, had put stakes there, so using those as a reference point, to go directly to that as a, you know, as a witness stake, there was no evidence of a iron pin or a monument at the surveyor's wooden stake,
Okay.
which was recently placed.
And if he's gonna put a fence in that regulated area, I reckon he should include that in his,
Yeah,
permit.
so the fence was installed along his north property line adjacent to the next door neighbor at 11, and that is not in a regulated area.
Oh, okay.
And I don't believe he has intentions of putting a fence along the back at this point, but he didn't indicate this.
All right, cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
And why isn't he here tonight?
I did not ask him to be here tonight,
Okay.
at this time, at this stage of the game.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's what I was checking.
The other individual I asked because of the water course, and I wanted you to be aware of what's going on. It's highly visible from his street, Sovereign Ridge, and from Route 9, so I just wanted you to hear it rather than hear it from somewhere else.
No, I appreciate that, thank you. If I still worked in Canton, I might have seen it. All right, is there a town planners report?
There is not.
Thank you. I don't see any public comments. Okay. Old business update on show cause hearing for an order to cease and desist property of Janice M.
Saplinski.
Thank you. And Mark,
And Jaffico.
thank you. Violation of inland wetlands and water course regulation on property known as 26 West Street Terrace. Howdy.
My name is Mark Mangiafico. I own 26 West Street Terrace, Cromwell, Connecticut.
So I believe as a recap, at the last meeting, you asked the commission to contact the property owner and to set up visits to view the site, to answer any questions or to make it more clear other than just looking at a paper map. Some of you had a chance to go out. Some of you indicated that you may have driven by it and seen it from the road. And if you have any questions at this point for the property owner, he is here, and I believe you have all the information you need, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think there's anything else that was outstanding from the last meeting.
So I did go out to the site and, it was, you know, I think very helpful for me to actually walk the property. I did bring, my laser measurements too. I know it was kind of difficult where it's colored in here, but, what I found was important, you know, they're looking at what fill was there and where you're gonna be filling it in, you'll probably run out before you get to all the blue. So, you know, I think focusing on inside the fenced-in area, you show it, you know, like this area outside the fence.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you get close to your 100 feet.
Yes.
So, you know, my suggestion, make sure I start inside, don't start close to the 100-foot line.
Yes, I'm not gonna, my plan is to not go near the wetlands. I'm looking to put probably 400 yards in my front yard where my whole yard is completely, the guy that did the foundation there was probably other instances there that was wrong. And I was telling this gentleman here that I wanna have it graded, compacted in my front lawn, which is very far away from the wetlands. I'd also like to level that fenced-in area that you measured, yes.
Yeah, so I think, you know, staying within that would be best, and also the front yard, and I think that would probably consume all of the fill that you had.
Thank you.
have any comments?
Yes, I'm referring to a letter dated March 24th from Stuart Popper that basically asks for an application be completed, and I don't see that application in the material that we've got. Has that been received?
I'm sorry for not producing copies or reproducing copies for you, but we have an application. The
Okay.
fee is not yet to be determined on it, but we do have an application from Mr. Mangiafico.
Okay, fantastic, okay.
Does anybody else have comments about the fill?
I have a concern about where the fill was placed. When you look at the map, that there was a body of water on the southeast corner of the property, that shows in all the drawings and kind of where the fill was. And when was the last time you said you saw water in that area?
22 maybe,
2022?
22, I don't know exactly,
So the year we had the drought?
maybe.
And
I mean,
then
it was
prior
just-
to that, there was
The
water
pond
there.
was dead with, as far as flow and airflow, so it just it was just no fish, it was like a mosquito nest mess. The town tax lady came out and saw it.
The who, what?
The tax assessor came out to
Oh,
do my
oh.
sheds and everything, and she
Oh,
saw it, and
Shauna?
I asked her if I could, level it out, and it was, she said it was okay, and I don't know where she is now. So I'm just looking to move that dirt off of that and fill and level everywhere in my pasture. I wanna just make more pasture, more grass. That's my main concern.
So after 2022, there was no water there, it just disappeared?
Well, it just slowly just ran out. It was just, we have a drainage that comes over and goes into another pond, and there's actually a well there or something, and that dried up. And it was just slowly. The other pond is drying up now. If you can see also that it's mostly rainwater or runoff from my neighbors.
Well, how were these ponds fed?
From a spring. The spring that came up from, well, it used to be Ruslan's. The spring came down and through my property down to the brook in Chelsea. When they put the sewers in, my well dried up, the water stopped and followed the line of the sewers. So my spring, or whatever the spring was coming from, I don't know exactly where it was. But we had a well when we were kids, and my grandfather kept beer in it, and we killed chickens, and we keep in that well. That well dried up, and then it was just slowly after that, the fish all died when I was a kid. The water flow just stopped. And you can go there now, there's no fish in those ponds. There's no air, no
Well,
water flow.
I got no fish in my ponds either, but they dry up and they refill and, oh hell, back in probably 21, 22, when we had that drought, there was grass growing in my pond.
I'm just trying to make pasture and grow grass.
Was this the only fill you brought in? Did you ever bring in any
I
fill
had fill
prior
from
to
when I
this?
dug my foundation, when I did the addition on my house.
And where did that go?
It went over there.
It went over to that area? And when was that done?
When my addition was built, 2 years ago maybe?
So 2022,
3 years ago?
2023?
Yeah, maybe. I can get
So-
exactly when it was started.
Kind of right when the water disappeared?
Right around there.
I have a problem with the pond disappearing.
I have a problem with it too, because, I look back on Google Earth for the past 10 years, and I printed it out. And in 2024 and 2023, there's no pond there. And then you go to 2022 and there's a pond there. And
The
in
hole? Like the hole?
I'm looking at a picture of water where you have fill now.
Okay.
And then 2020, there's water there. In 2019, there's there. I went back to 2015,
May I see that?
and there's water there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Could you,
So-
could you comment and let us know, where did you get where are the maps from?
I went on Google Earth and just did it, and just timestamp, and went back on history and did a year-by-year comparison. And I went back 10 years. And so prior to 2022,
And it's a substantial pond.
it's there. And that's where the piles of dirt are sitting now, and that's where,
And
you
that's
know,
why-
that's where the foundation fill went as well, apparently. So there was something there, and now there isn't.
And that's what, you know, you say your cows are stepping in holes and making holes and gonna break their legs. It's because a pond wants to be there.
Oh, okay.
You know, horses and cows walk in muddy water or soft dirt. You know, they make a divot, an inch, half inch, or whatever have you.
I have, yeah, all over my
They,
property.
they step in muck where there's a pond, you know, they'll go down 6, 8 inches.
Okay,
It's because a pond wants to be there.
okay.
You know, like I said, in 2022, everything dried up. That was a miserable year. And the following year, we had all those floods.
So the idea would be when you move that fill, you're gonna move it just to the, you know, surface, not,
I'm not digging down below it, I'm just gonna move that fill out of there because of my violation, that's what my plan was. I mean, we moved dirt around a lot on the farm, and you can come to the left side property line on Franklin Road, and that is all mud and runoff and erosion, and I just wanna level it and plant grass. I will remove that fill, the 1,000 yards off of where it is now.
When you say over by Franklin Road, you mean by the intersection of West Street Terrace and Franklin?
Yeah, well, where the neighbors are, you know how their
Well-
yards back up on that? You can see it right here.
Are you saying, when you say filling it, where the blue is here?
Yes.
Okay.
The blue is the front yard, and then this is my backyard,
Okay.
and that's where I wanna put it, because if,
I just wanted to make sure when you said Franklin Road, that everybody understood that you weren't talking about the regulated area which is
No,
the
no,
wetland
no,
flag
no,
over by
up.
Franklin.
up behind, I forgot his name, Downey, Sims, like that park. I just wanna move it. I want this to all be over.
So Andrew, it's your contention that this is a pond and was a pond until it got filled in?
You know,
Based upon what you're seeing?
based on what I saw there, I mean, and based on what we saw in the drawings that we saw from the town, and based on what we're seeing there, it all of a sudden went away in 2022. And now we have more fill sitting on top of it.
So in other words, it's more than just the fact that it was a wetland on the town map. It really was a bona fide wetlands as of 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
Those pictures would indicate that,
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I was under the impression my grandfather dug those ponds. I mean, I could find out more information, he's deceased, but.
But that doesn't
I
really
mean,
matter.
I didn't mean to
ponds
do anything.
exist.
I mean, we put dirt over there because it was just sinking and becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger hole, so we would just put dirt there, compost. You'll notice tons and tons of compost. I don't know if you saw that compost where all the manure and everything we put the animals, which turns to topsoil, and we would push it because of the degradation of the pond. I mean, I don't know. I'm putting, I don't know.
permit say, Bruce?
Application.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the application. Does the application has to state what he's doing with all this, right?
Correct, it said that, quote, "I received 1,025 yards of fill. I want to level my front yard and my side pasture and around my barn and backyard." And describing alternative methods that have been considered and justification for the method chosen, he listed dried up pond, dead, no air or flow, going to spread,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna spread it with my tractor.
something and compost, and plant pasture grass.
Okay. There you go. And how do you guys feel?
Bruce, how do we get the pile of fill out of the wetland? How would we be the best way to do that from a planning standpoint, from a town standpoint?
Okay, so similar to the previous addresses that I talked about with violations, should this receive an approval tonight to keep the fill there, he still has to go to planning and zoning for the amount of fill, because it's in excess of 100 yards in a calendar year. And I understand that the two regulatory agencies are independent of each other, but planning and zoning could see your approval and say, you know, we really don't give a consideration to that approval, we're not going to approve it, or they could concur with you and approve it. So you could, in theory, make a motion to approve the amount of fill that he has there, to remove it from said area to the areas that he's indicated in blue, but he still can't do that until he gets approval from planning and zoning.
You can make it contingent on approval from planning. Our approval is contingent upon their approval.
Well, yeah, it would have to be, because if they didn't approve it, then he's gotta come back to us to decide what's going on, right?
Well, you could make a condition that, if you decided to approve the fill at all, that you would approve the fill contingent upon P and Z approving it, and if P and Z does not approve it, then it's really out of your hands, or you could include in the approval that, at that point, that it needs to be removed, if it lacked P and Z approval.
Well, I think that's the only other alternative.
And P and Z would follow up with enforcement, like they usually do, for lack of approval for the amount of fill. They would say you have to remove it, and do whatever is necessary from an enforcement standpoint to remove it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I reckon that's what I agree with. I don't know where to go with the pond.
I'm not too excited about approving this to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, we need to talk
I
about
would've-
restoration of the
I
site.
would have thought that we would have seen the application that came in with the package that we got. So probably it just came in the last day or so, I would guess, which is why we didn't get it with our package. From hearing it being read to us, I was not overwhelmed at the depth that went into it. It looked to me like a good application would have come back with a soil scientist saying, here's where the wetland is, here's where it should be. Yes, there was soil put there, and then an application would have shown how the soil was gonna be removed from there and when it was going to be done, and all that kind of material I would have thought should have been in that application for us to consider approving the application. Basically, I think what the application is saying right now is if we approve it, we're just approving, sitting on what we've been doing for the last 150 days or so. We had a 120-day permit before, and then we get another 30 days, so I don't see we've made any progress in that timeframe. Personally, I don't know quite where to go. That's sort of what I was looking for Bruce for support on. Obviously, we don't really want to keep the pond covered with a big fill of dirt that's sitting there, but I don't really think we want to go ahead and approve taking it out and throwing it around the soil area. And
Well, he wants to spread it
Well,
where, out
Yeah.
of the wetlands.
okay, that's good. Yeah, I see
Well, I
that
think there's
part.
two issues at hand. I think the initial issue is to get whatever soil, whatever top fill is, or fill is there, get it out of that delineated wetland, and let the applicant spread it out through the remainder of the property outside of the 100-foot buffer. And then if the body wants to, they can talk about reconstituting that pond. But I think the initial issue needs to be is getting whatever's there out of its way.
Right.
And approving it, and I think you need to approve it, so it moves from our table to planning and zoning, so it will happen
Timely.
in a timely manner.
And that's what we agreed to at our last meeting, right, to walk the site. So our agreement was, we would consider the application after walking the
Yep,
site. So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be fair to ask him for a soil scientist and all that, because I think we discussed that last time and said, you know, for various
It was
reasons.
just cost
cost
price.
reasons, We weren't gonna do that, so.
We could
I don't wanna
perhaps
go back on what we-
amend the application to read as removing the fill from the wetland and distribute it around the property.
Well, that's what it says.
Yeah, okay, okay, that's good.
If you like, I'll read it again.
Okay.
So, he listed the reason for the proposed wetland or upland review area disturbance. And it says, please note, this area is not for a description of the project, it is only the reason for the project. And he wrote, quote, I received 1,025 yards of fill. I want to level my front yard and my side pasture and around my barn and backyard.
Okay, so does behind it, around the barn or whatever
Nothing's
constitute?
near wetlands.
What?
It's not near the wetlands, it's within the 100 yards of wetlands.
So it's in the upland review. I guess I don't know where his barn is.
Here's the barn right here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this is the barn.
Yeah.
So he wants to level in the blue area, so fill is in the red area. He wants to remove from the red area and put it in all of this blue area, which is beyond the measured 100 feet, the 100 feet.
Yeah.
There's the barn that he talks about in the description, so he wants to level this area over here behind the house, and then this low area here.
And where was the other pond?
The other pond was right here. This is the pond right here.
Oh, that's the pond that disappeared?
Yes,
Yeah.
right here.
It's got the fill
Okay.
in that pond.
All right, I reckon I
So,
looked at that wrong.
so I make a motion, we amend the motion, or amend the application to reflect removing the fill from the wetland and distributing, as indicated on this map, and getting it out of the wetland, but still not approving the fact that he's disturbed the wetland significantly. We probably ought to still be looking at some kind of a remedial activity for the wetlands that was done. And I don't know what that activity should be. Maybe we ought to consider that down the road, but I
It
don't
just
know.
seems like it was a significant disturbance to the wetlands,
No doubt about
to
it.
me. You know, I understand that we have a plan, I mean, there's kind of a plan for the material. I haven't seen a grading plan. And
No,
I
but-
see a bunch of fill that was brought there with no permit and then dumped into a wetland.
Right. Just one of the things that I misunderstood was that this pond was here where he's gonna spread it. But, yeah, I think when he takes this out of here, yeah, there needs to be some sort of remedialization. I'm agreeing with it, with everybody.
Because I don't know, it just doesn't look the same after the foundation was dug and then the material was put there in
Seems like
2022.
The pond seems quite big, I know, for foundation, do you know approximately how much fill was
No, I do
removed
not.
from the foundation? Because it was your addition, not a whole house.
No, It was yeah, it's probably the same size as my house. The addition is I take care of my mother and my father, and then we built an addition, and it was my twins, and my wife and myself.
I'm just wondering how much fill was used.
I know, they wanted to charge me to truck it out, and I said, well, I have all this land, dump it over there. And that's,
That's what we're trying to consider.
Right, where the
that
pond
what-
is.
Yeah.
Is it a
that
full
what caused-
basement?
yeah,
So, all right, so,
So you're talking 500 square feet,
At least.
probably, at least,
yeah, so that is quite a
additional
bit.
fill.
Yeah,
So you're talking 1,500 square feet at the very least, on top with the stuff that's above grade and now the stuff that's below grade.
Do the foundation, so how many yards does that equate to?
500 yards
500 yards.
500 yards, so,
minimum, yeah.
you know, you're talking about all those piles that are sitting there, at least half of that. In addition to those piles.
So to address the question that I think Wynn brought up and somebody else commented on about restoration of pond that is no longer there, you could, in theory, direct him by an approval to remove material from that area that's defined on the map and to restore it to whatever grades you feel are appropriate for a pond, and to use that material either elsewhere or to be removed from the site.
That sounds
That
good.
would not interfere with the planning and zoning's consideration of the amount of fill that he has, because it would still be on, in theory, on his site for them to consider, but it would take care of your concerns with that area. So from a remediation question standpoint, that's a possibility for you to consider.
I think that has to be considered, because we can't ignore it, it's there.
And that would not involve having him get an engineer or a soil scientist. You could just look at that, and staff could work with him in the area that's depicted on the map, and if that's what you're ordering him to do, directing him to do because of that area, then we would follow through with your wishes.
all right, and that's the whole entire problem he's having with his cattle. His cattle are stepping in a pond, what wants to be a pond.
that's covered, the cattle don't grow there, that's all the fill now. I'm worried about is, if you want, we can do another site visit, I can show you, but it's from this picture of my house. Most of it is all the mud. Is all here, this whole blue area is all the mud from all the runoff of these people's houses runs into here, and this is all needs to be raised up a little bit so the water will go down to the brook. And this is over here, this is behind my chicken coop.
But if
This is where all the
there was a
mud is. The
pond there,
is here.
all that water would go into that pond.
No, the pond's higher up. The pond was higher over. That's where the well and the spring came from, West Street Heights and Ruslin's house. That's on the other side of where West Street turns to go towards West Street Heights. I think Downey owns it now. That's where the water came in from where the cemetery was or is. And then Shelley Street, there was a spring that came out of there that fed my well, which fed that pond. And that's what I was told when I was a kid. And then when they put the sewers in, as my uncle tells me, the sewers came in and the spring decided to follow the Black Rock and followed the pipes. Instead of going this way, it followed the pipes to Franklin Road. And you guys are doing the sewers.
That would cause undermining though, wouldn't it?
That's just what I was told. I don't know for sure.
I can advise the commission that Mr. Mangiafico mentioned that he needs to do some grading to direct the water towards the stream on the north side of his property facing Chelsea Drive. But if this goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they're gonna wanna see a grading plan to make sure that said grading is not.
I
gonna
just think we're moving a
negatively
lot of
impact.
material around without having a real idea of where the water's going to go.
Yeah, Planning and zoning is not gonna approve pushing material that they don't know is not gonna negatively impact an abutting neighbor, whether it's the Franklin or the Chelsea. So,
Well, that's true too.
So that's a concern that they may have. They may say, put it somewhere else, but without a grading plan, we can't.
Might be creating a new problem.
Right, if they, okay. I guess I'm trying to figure out how we need to word this. So we're gonna allow him to spread said soil.
I think we want to stress that he remove the soil from the wetland right now. That should be the essence. How he gets rid of that is really not our concern, as long as it doesn't go into another wetland or into an upland review area.
Actually, can we do it that way?
When you say wetlands, could you be more specific when you say remove it from it? Do you mean the former pond?
The current wetland, the current pond that it's in, yes.
All right. Okay, I just wanna make sure I know what you're talking about.
If we said that he needed to remove the soil from the pond, it'd be up to the I'm sorry, it'd be up to the zoning commission as to how he got rid of it, right?
Oh, you could order him to do it now, before it goes to planning and zoning.
Well, then, yes, but well, all right, so my point is, if he takes it out of the pond, he's gotta put it someplace. So that solves our problem. But he's still gotta go to the planning and zoning commission and say, can I spread this?
Right.
And it may be that he can spread only half of it because they'll only allow 500 cubic feet instead of 1,000 that he's got. The other 500 would have to be taken off the property altogether. That may be the case. I'm assuming that might be what
I
they're
have
coming-
7 acres of land, maybe they could find somewhere else to put it, possibly. I mean, whatever they tell
I'm
me
not
to do,
gonna
I'll do
interpret
it.
what planning and zoning is gonna do, cause I've never been on planning and zoning, so I don't know how they might interpret that, but.
Right, so,
So to answer your question, yes, you could have him remove it from there, and either remove it from the site, or leave it on the site somewhere else that's not in a regulated area, because that's your bailiwick, as you know.
Yeah.
So you're, again, concerned with your jurisdictional authority, not planning and zonings. And as you said, we can't second guess what they might do, but we don't know what they're going to do.
Right,
But
so-
if your concern is a specific area, like you mentioned, then you could take action on that if you want.
So if we were to take it out of the wetland area as it currently is, where it currently is, and remove it from there, and reestablish the wetland that it's currently residing in to its more natural condition that it used to be, going back to the
2022.
10 years ago, yeah, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think that would be a appropriate decision for our commission to make.
Right, and either way, he's gotta go to zoning.
Right, but then that would address your immediate concerns that you have with the former pond.
Right.
Right.
Right. I'm thinking, I mean, well, I'm not gonna speak for everybody else, but I'm gonna say myself, I think that's the avenue to go.
I also last week addressed the issue of fining, and was told by Bruce that the fact that he'd been working with Bruce on this all along, the feeling was that we did not need to come up with a fine at this time. I'm still going along with that to some extent, but looking at your nature of violations and the amount of fine, certainly we've got a placement of materials in regulated area is one of the issues that's going on. I think that would be the only thing that would apply, but maybe instead of the $1,000 a day that we were looking at before, the $500 amount of fine would be appropriate here. I don't know.
Right, I would agree. I would not advocate for a daily fine, because he did stop the activity immediately when he was contacted by staff, and
Right.
been cooperative with staff as far as not continuing to violate, just in the wait state mode until we figured this whole thing out.
My only reason for even suggesting this, a single fine, is the fact that we've gone for the 150 days and we haven't really made any progress in that time frame. And granted, it was the winter months, which made it more difficult perhaps to move it, but maybe more easy to move it because the ground was firmer than it is today. So that might have been a better time to have moved this around than today is, so. I'm just throwing that out.
Well, the material that he had amassed was frozen, so it was kind of hard to move
Yeah, you
back.
gotta wait.
The ground was solid, but so was the
Yeah,
top of
okay.
the material pile.
Yeah, okay,
So he couldn't
Couldn't have moved it
kind of
further.
stymied, he couldn't do anything.
yeah.
So if we approve, I'm just asking, so the next step would be a planning and zoning, and then we would get we need a grading plan to probably approve for it to go anywhere from there. Or
That's not
should
you.
we-
That's not wetlands.
Right, so, but can we ask for a grading plan here?
Could, but then we're back to the same thing
We're
with
back to the-
with the engineer, and that's, as Karen mentioned, that's why last month, you decided to circumvent the engineer and the soil scientist by doing site visits and trying to use what we had on file, so he didn't have to incur those massive expenses.
Planning and zoning will likely ask for something, but work with them on it. And it'll be noted in these minutes, our concern with the pond,
I just think removal of the material is obviously essential of the pond, but then where the material goes, there's no, I mean, I see the drawing here, but we might be creating another problem by moving the material there, as far as I know.
Well, that's why I'm saying, cause and I agree that I think planning and zoning would ask for a grading plan because that's what they do every day.
Right.
So I think if we said, remove it from the wetlands and don't give him a place to put it, then he has to go to planning and zoning and say, where can I put this fill? And they're gonna ask for a grading plan that shows that he's putting it in a place that he's not gonna detriment all of these neighbors. Right?
Which we don't know if that area is that place or not.
Correct, it might be
Right.
this place.
Hard to say.
Right, so, I mean, none of us are engineers. Well, actually, are any of us engineers?
I'm an electrical engineer, not a civil.
All right, none of us are soil engineers.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Why don't you ask the property owner what he would do with the fill if you ordered it out of there? Where he would put it while he was waiting to go to planning and zoning?
Good question.
I will put it where you tell me to put it. I'd put it right behind my barn. I mean, there's no wetlands there.
No.
I could put it behind my barn, I could
That's
put
an
it
easy
100,
transition.
I can measure off
Yeah, that's a
100
very
yards
easy
from
trip.
where the wetlands is,
Yep.
and I can rope it off, and I can pile it. I can just move it and pile it.
I think within that fenced area,
I can put it in there.
does that
I
work?
mean, I can go to planning and zoning tomorrow.
Where's the fence you're asking?
This is a fence,
Oh, that's a
he's
fence?
got a wire fence there, there's the barn.
But that's a
You
good
could
idea.
typically go up to this point, 100 feet, but if you kept
I'll
it.
put it in my
within that
backyard.
fenced area,
My
We're
backyard.
in this fence.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
I mean, it's gonna take me a little while,
It's
but
gonna-
I'll do it.
So the distance from the edge of the former pond to the barn is roughly 120 feet, right?
I think a little more.
Here, to what, here?
This was the barn,
Right.
there's 100 feet, so it's like 180. To
Well, I
the
don't-
barn.
Yeah, I'm scaling it off, and it looks like from the edge of the former pond to the far, the
Oh,
west
yeah.
side of the barn is 120 feet.
So that scale might not be right. This is the scale for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just smaller.
That's made smaller.
Oh, yours is reduced, so yours is not to scale.
Right, so this is the
The
scale.
large map is to scale.
So you are right, it is about 100 feet. So because that was this,
So you said 180,
120
120,
yeah.
120, okay,
roughly.
yep.
All right,
So we should just ask that it be removed from the wetland and put into a place that's not within the wetland or the upland review area.
Right.
And leave it to him as to where that's gonna be.
Right.
well, yeah, he said it's in
So
this
that-
area right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, okay.
And what about your thoughts about removing it from the pond and the restoration? How do you continue that thought? What do you wanna do with that?
again, he can come back to us with a recommendation on how he's going to restore the pond to meet with our requirements. I think that would work.
Do you have any ideas on that right now, Mark, of what, if they were to direct you to remove the material from the former pond, so we know the location and the size of the pond, how would you basin it out? To what depth would you put it? Could you share that with them now so you don't have to come back and do it again?
Yeah, I could dig it out to the scale that's on here. I mean, I could measure it, pace it off, and
How deep,
remove
how
the
deep
di-
would that, would you say that pond was?
What did you do in this pond as a kid? Did you swim in it?
Yeah, fished in it, ran and jumped in it. I mean,
Was
it wasn't deep, no.
Was it 8 feet, 6 feet, 4 feet?
Yeah, 8 feet maybe,
Okay.
maybe 12 feet in the middle maybe, I don't know. My grandfather dug them. I mean, I don't know, I mean,
So that's something for you to consider
Should I-
along the lines of your direction to remove the material from that area
So-
and to restore it, then he has an idea. And I don't think it would be critical if he's saying 8 feet or 12 feet in the middle and 4 feet on the edges that we're holding a tight tolerance on any of those dimensions, but.
No, I think that's all a basin.
Yeah,
And, I mean, it doesn't have to be pool shape, perfect, but,
And it's gotta be gradual, so if the animals walk into it,
right,
it's
something to that effect, yeah.
should we put a time limit here for this as well? That the soil be removed within 30 days,
Oh, he still has to go to planning and zoning.
25
not,
days?
not if you order them to take this out, no.
Okay.
And
Would-
if you order them to take that out and to restore the basin of the pond, he could do that now without P and Z.
When does P and Z meet? This week?
Twice a month.
Did they meet this
They
week?
met last night, yeah.
That's last night, well, they didn't approve it then last night.
No, it has,
No,
no, it has to clear this commission before
Sure.
it goes there.
Okay,
I'd
I
give
would
45
suggest that
days.
we ask that the
Huh?
I'd do
soil be
45
removed
days.
within 30 days.
45, I'd give him 45, just.
I would.
we have-
45 because
I don't
you
think
don't
30 is
know.
enough time.
Yeah,
30 is not enough time?
Well,
think
considering
that's-
if we have some rainy weather, that's not
Yeah.
gonna,
Okay,
Next
okay.
couple,
Can't work
the
in the
next
mud.
4 days.
he's doing it in the
45
springtime too, which, yeah,
Is the worst time.
right.
So I'd do at least 45, I'd even consider 60, but 45 if that's the groups.
Okay, 45 days, good.
So,
Where are we, April?
60 wouldn't be bad just for like the June meeting,
I know,
right?
yeah.
If we said
45
that.
would give him time, give Bruce time to report to us at our next at our
If we
meeting.
give him 60, then he can just come to the June meeting,
Okay.
Yeah,
right? I
Yeah.
think that would be fair.
whatever
Would
you
be
want.
fair, except that,
I would say be more generous with that time to extend it to 60, just.
Cause we got, I mean, if P and Z's involved too, so it's,
Yeah.
This
but
way,
this,
if he finishes
it
it
gives him
30
some
days,
leeway.
then he's done with it, but at least you gave him the time because this is a regulatory order on your part, as you know, by the commission. With-
and
with-
as a
with-
farmer, I'll tell you, he's gonna have a hell of a time getting in there in a month.
okay,
Yeah.
I've already done my fields twice because of the rain,
okay. Let's go with 60 then.
yeah.
Okay.
So do we have a date that's bringing us to? Anybody looking?
Why don't we just call it our
The
June
fourth,
meeting?
June fourth.
June 4th would be the day.
June 4th meeting.
All right.
All right, so
Okay.
I'm gonna sum up, tell me if I'm wrong. We're asking him to remove the soil from the wetlands, to recreate the pond. And I reckon we're giving him 60 days to do it.
Yes. We're asking him to remove it from the wetlands and put it into a non-wetland, non-upland review area on his property. He's already indicated what that would be, but that's, we don't wanna force him to that one spot. If he wanted to spread it all over his property in the next 60 days, I've got no problem with him doing that. So
Well,
does,
yeah, but P and Z might.
B and Z might have different thoughts, but I
Right.
wouldn't have any problem with that.
Well, your main concern right now is to have him remove it from that
That's
area that
exactly
you
right.
you
Right.
expressed interest in. and, P and Z can't do anything about that, because it's removed, at that point it's removed, so. You know, whether they allow them to keep it, or they tell them to remove a portion or all of it, your concerns have been addressed, and again,
Right, right.
gotta stay in your lane.
Yeah, if
Right,
they-
So right now, we can just say, remove the soil from the wetlands
And recreate the pond.
and restore the pond. All right,
Yes.
so I will make a motion to have the applicant remove the soil from the wetlands at the southeast corner of the property and restore the pond, in 60 days, and we will revisit it then.
Second.
And I would like to just make a friendly amendment that the removed soil be placed in an area not in a wetland or upland review area on that property.
Okay, so just in
In a non-regulated.
a
area.
non-regulated area.
Non-regulated area,
That's
that's
perfect.
better, much
Okay.
better.
Good idea.
Yep.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
We did, Karen.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you have it.
I will work with Mr. Maggifico and, report back at the next meeting.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's not the final, but it's just an update on the next meeting. This was yours, right? Chris?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Excuse me, sir? Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
I reckon we don't have any new business?
No new business.
Any commissioners' comments or reports?
Yes, commissioner comments. I did not view the property on my own with the applicant. In past, when we've had site walks, they've been part of a public hearing typically, and the reason for the site walk being a site walk is so we don't get different people getting different ideas and different views, and get, for example, I might have been talking to the gentleman, and he tells me one thing. John, somebody else, Joe might have been talking to him, and he gives him some other information, and pretty soon, we've all got different ideas about what's taking place. And also, we don't have any official record of what took place. And that's the reason for a site visit with the whole group, or that part of a group that we can
didn't wanna-
have.
We didn't wanna have a.
Pardon?
We didn't wanna have a quorum, cause then it's a meeting.
Well, I know we didn't, but if we had done that with a quorum and had it be a meeting, we would have then had a record of it, and we would have all gotten the same information at the same time, rather than getting bits and pieces.
But don't you have to, isn't the public welcome to a meeting?
The
Yeah.
public would have been welcome as well. Otherwise, you get into what's known as ex parte information, where one person knows one thing and other people don't know things. I'm afraid that had I been talking to him directly, I might have gotten into who he is and what he is and who does he know, and found out that maybe I'm closer to him than I think I am. I think I know him, and I think I know his wife in other areas, but I don't really know that. But if I were talking to him, I think I'd have found that out, and I'd have had personal reasons why I would have wanted to vote yea or nay based upon things other than the application itself. So I think that in the future, we should give serious consideration to having site walks with the whole group rather than individual site walks. Just my opinion.
No, that's interesting. I mean, the way I understood it, the reason we did it the way we did it was so that
Yep.
it wasn't a public
I understand.
meeting, and it would have been a special meeting as well, right?
Yep.
The subject property presented unique qualities that, because it was a public meeting, you'd have to make reasonable accommodations for handicapped people. And because it was a farm, I don't know how we would have done that.
Oh,
How
right,
we-
right. So that's what I was
How we would have
getting
been
at.
inclusive for all people to access that. You know, if somebody had some mobility issues or didn't have mobility abilities,
Mm-hmm.
how we would provide access to it.
Right.
There's a variety of things that, this wasn't as you know, your typical site walk
I understand.
opportunity. But your point's well taken. and
We've
all
gone
valid
on,
points.
we've
gone on sidewalks that have been in muddier places than that, and we went on one sidewalk where, as I recall, we all got on a bus and drove around the property because it was so distributed and so wide area that even though the public was there and the public were there, they all got on the bus that was provided by the applicant to take us around. So there
That
has
was
been.
long before my time.
Just speaking to that for a
Yeah.
little bit, I do like the idea though of individuals going, because then they come up with an individual opinion. And so then we come together in a meeting and then those, we meet with those opinions and then you might have seen something that I didn't see or vice versa, or just had a different take on things. So sometimes when you get together in a group, that could get stifled too. So, maybe you went on a sunny day and I went on a rainy day and we saw two different things and, an evaluation can present itself that way too. So I think there's value to both ways of doing
I think
it.
we also are getting into legal aspects of it, and
True.
I think that from a legal standpoint, we're supposed to all be meeting together, so we're all providing the same knowledge and all coming up with the same knowledge as we present this and deliberate on it, so that I don't have different information that I'm utilizing. And it's, in a town like this, it's difficult because you do know people, you don't know the places, you know exactly, like he's pointed out, his grandfather would know this, and he used to go swimming there. If I'd have been swimming with him back 20 years ago, I'd have a different idea about that pond than any of the rest of us would have had. So it gets a little difficult, but the idea is to have it be as much of a body making a decision as it is anything else. I've gone to a number of the hearings on this with getting the legal opinions of it, and they very strongly, very strong about that you want it to be a body hearing the whole issue and getting it into the minutes. So that is all in the minutes, because this is different. This it was not a public hearing as such. If it's a public hearing, it has to be in the minutes, because the minutes become the record of what you use for the decision. You cannot have things that are outside of the minutes that are used in a decision-making process. This is a cease and desist order, which is a horse of a different color, so we don't quite know what the rules are on that one. Had this been a continuation of a public hearing, yes, we would have not wanted it to go individually, but here I think that's why I didn't bring it up before. The reason I didn't go is the more I thought about it over the course of the last month, I've been thinking, this is not a good idea. We shouldn't be doing this individually, but we did, and okay. I didn't bring it up with the gentleman here because I didn't want him to taint his thinking at all either.
It's an interesting point.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with everything he says, because everybody heard about he wants to move the soil over by his house and grow grass to feed his cows. Did anybody hear that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one comment I think that he came up with, that I don't think everybody heard that.
Yeah. Okay, that was all I had to say in our comments.
Okay, anybody else got anything?
Approval of minutes.
Yeah.
I move approval of the minutes of, whatever.
March 5th,
I second
2025.
it.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You hit the nail on the head, Joe.
A meeting to a motion to adjourn?
So moved. So moved.
Yep.
Second?
Who motion?
They all did.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, I thought about that when I was there.
We did not
Good job, guys.
discuss the finding, but
Tonight was not a typical evening night.
No.
oh, I'm in trouble with my wife. I told her it'd be a short meeting.
Yeah, you jinxed it.
It's not a short meeting after all.
Do that. Hey, Steve. Where do you think you're going?
I've been in trouble with Sandy all day anyway, so.
You too. Take care.
My my son Michael is out in Yellowstone right now
Oh, yeah?
on a business meeting, would you believe? The lawyers took their meeting to Wyoming, and they're meeting in Yellowstone. Wow. I don't know how they get to do that. Most of the time they meet in Las Vegas.